And welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Brennan Cobb, co-founder and CEO of HBG Capital. Today, I've got Dan French on the show. Dan French is a managing director of ATX Acquisitions. He's helped orchestrate deals, get this, totaling over $2 billion in assets under management. He's been delivering marketable returns exceeding $1 billion to investors. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Dan's leadership and insight extends as CEO of ResProp, a real estate private equity and property management firm where he has overseen the operation of a staggering 15,000 apartments and properties. We're going to get into some fun stuff today. We're going to be talking about all this management, AI, tech, and what's happening in the real estate industry. Dan, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Brandon, pleasure to be here, man. I love what you're up to as well, and it's very impressive. And I've heard a couple of your pods, and I'm a big fan. So I think you do a great
Yeah.
job. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk to you because I was looking and we were talking for about 10 minutes before the show, and there's some interesting stuff here that I've never had a guest on talk about. So let's jump into it. First, for those that don't know you, tell us your story and background.
Yeah, look, I've been in real estate for 20 years, which sounds kind of crazy to say now because it feels like a heartbeat. But I love what I do. I'm very mission focused. I love to serve other people and build great teams. So the mission has always been if you're stewarding people's capital, then you have to be a faithful steward. You have to align your interests with them, with theirs, and then that way they can sleep well at night. They know that they put their capital with someone they can truly trust and build a relationship with. So that's a mission is number one. But how I got into real estate all that time ago was through a small partnership. My one of my good friends growing up approached me. Him and his brother did. So I became the third partner in a small partnership, and we started buying deals that I thought of as multifamily. It's actually not even considered multifamily. It's like 4-unit buildings, and this was like a hack to. I felt called at that point to go into public service. I had a whole career, and I spent 7 years doing that, chasing that whole career, and that was driven by a response to 9/11. So that was my background. I was considering this to be like passive real estate investment, where I could be more of a passive partner, and then build long-term wealth for my future. Maybe want to have a big family, for my future family. And we got in buying these small deals. This is like 04, 05, 2004, 2005, and felt really smart for a while. For a couple of years, we felt we were just on top of the world, cobbling
Everybody did, yeah.
a portfolio, and maybe it was like 100 units at this point. And I felt like, wow, I couldn't even dream that up. Growing up, I didn't expect to be in real estate. But then the Great Recession happens, of course. We're like the poster child for things you just shouldn't do. Like, over leveraged, didn't have a really stable and solid operation, didn't have a lot of reserves. And so we felt the pain almost instantly, right? And then eventually we spent many years working that all out, many years of pain and misery, and just through grit and determination, we were able to work it out, avoided bankruptcy, avoided the worst of it, paid back our early investors that came alongside of us. But I didn't make any money for like 15 years off of all that. The happy part of the story is what you mentioned. We did $2 billion in a real estate private equity play starting in 2011. So my same partner who approached me all that time ago, 20 years ago, I joined him full time in late 2011. And so I saw this scale play. It was wonderful. It was a ton of fun. We raised a lot of money, a lot of equity capital, and we did very well for our investment partners. And that firm bought $2 billion of assets. And in 2019, we felt compelled that we should be on the sell side at this point, right? Because it became so frothy. The play that we came after at that early phase had really disappeared. It got crowded out. So in 2019, we decided to sell. We became net sellers. We sold 1.5 billion. We still maintain a small portfolio of assets, and then we built the property management business back up to 15,000 units. So let me pause there because that might be a lot to take in, and maybe we can unpack some of that, and I'll let you take it where you want.
Yeah, no, incredible journey. So you got started in like the single family world, quadplexes on
Yeah,
under
essentially. Yeah.
it like everybody else. The beautiful thing about these recessions or these market corrections is that it allows a lot of people to get better at their business because what is it? High tide lifts all boats. When you're running a crappy operation, but things just keep going up, you turn a blind eye to it. And it takes these market corrections to really dig down and be like, oh gosh, I was not that operationally efficient all along. And so y'all
Right.
stomach that. And it sounds like y'all got into it at a great time, 2010, 2011. And y'all did the right thing. Y'all waited for things to get frothy and kind of overcook, and there's a lot of euphoria in the market. 2019, I mean, y'all couldn't have picked a more perfect time to sell than that. I mean, right before the whole COVID boom. I think that COVID boom was like the last little blip before we got the interest rate correction here.
Yeah.
You mentioned that y'all started ResPrompt and some other companies. We were talking before this that y'all had started multiple other companies, tech companies, I believe, that specifically catered to the needs of your real estate business. Talk to us about those. What are they? What services do they offer? And then let's get into some of the cool tech stuff that they're doing.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, Brandon. And we look at it like an ecosystem, right? So, and we have a very, very long range vision, and that's, I think, differentiates us a bit from the typical private equity space. Like the typical thinker is really thinking about, well, 3 to 5 year hold periods. Let me juice IRR and think about, like, how do I just build, either wealth for myself or scale, or like some vanity metric of how many billion AUM. But we tend to think about it more of like an ecosystem, like I said. So we have three real buckets that I would distinguish. One is real estate private equity, so that's the investment side. Another one is real estate operations, so that's property management. And then real estate technology. So we've built, on the tech side, we kind of think of it like a single venture to disrupt real estate. Now, real estate's the world's largest asset class, so by far, right? And however, it's been the least disrupted, and innovation has happened, I would say, the least in residential real estate and construction, vis-a-vis almost any other industry. If you look at transportation, if you look at logistics, if you look at how people buy flights or hotel rooms, it's so much more from a user experience side, or even Airbnb. There's been a lot of disruption around how people do other activities, but how we own and operate real estate has really been stuck in the past. Like the same way that I staff a 300 unit property has been the same way I've done it in 30 years ago. So the deflationary aspect of tech, I think, really hasn't hit real estate yet. And that's the wonderful thing about technology, is that it should be able to tool people up and empower them to do a lot more with their time. So that's like the theme of what we're going for. And let me pause there.
So let's get into the property management. And you're right. I share I share that thesis. We still build houses the same way we built houses 100 years ago with sticks and bricks. Maybe we've gotten a lot better at it, and the codes have become more strict. We're building better houses, but it's still the same way. We've seen some cool 3D printing steam come along, but
Right.
nothing's going to go mainstream yet. I like the modular industry where it's like ship the pieces and put them together on site, but you're going to have some constraints there with like local codes being passing it.
Yeah.
What specifically does your property management company, like what tech are you guys using to improve? Let's get as granular as possible here. Staffing those apartments, right? You said that it's been done the same way for a long time. We still staff the same units like we've done. How are you guys using technology to get, or let's say, have tenants find you, schedule a tour and ultimately get in those properties?
Yeah, I think one big theme that we're going after is called centralization. So, picture like a Walmart store. Back in the day, they used to have the accountant sitting in the back of an office of like a big Walmart store. Like, you don't need to do that, right? You can centralize that function and probably do it in a way that's much more, process driven. It's easier to train. It's easier to kind of stamp out one particular way to do things. So we have the same mentality of how to operate real estate. There are certain tasks that are very rote, very mind numbing, and sometimes like soul crushing. That's what I say. But so we want those things to be automated and preferably done in a way that's like offsite, in a far cheaper, more cost effective way. And we've proven this via case studies where eventually, if you have let's just say a 250 unit site, right? That is like a kind of a tweener, if you will. So the typical staffing plan on the sales side would be 3 people. But so 3 people can do, it's basically the ratio in the industry is 1 per 100. So every 100 units, you have one person. But say if you have 250, the question when you underwrite a deal or go to staff it with a staffing plan is, do you get 2.5 people or do I get 3? So if you get 3, it's automatically heavy from a cost perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we need to find a way to run that property with 2 people and eventually one person. And the way to do that, I think, is you have to have a really robust centralization capability, and that capability needs to use cheaper staffing. Maybe it's offshore, and it needs to use better technology tools to automate things that are very routine. And so we have ideas around that, and we're doing it really around renewals, delinquency, collections, leasing, handling maintenance calls, and some of these tools we've actually built in our Rex technology platform.
Interesting. So tell me more about that. Like, how does it work and how is it getting more people in your properties?
Yeah, well, we have a bunch of we mentioned AI at the beginning of the call, or actually pre-call, just talking about AI has been very buzzy, and even before it was super buzzy. We had already thought about building all of our technology companies in a way that had AI built in from the very beginning.
Okay.
So one example would be a company we have very successful. It's called Job Call. So Job Call it handles all the after hours maintenance, emergency like maintenance calls, and it handles them in a way where a human's not in the loop. It'll basically intake the call, and it's going to use AI to kind of ask a couple questions, understand, first of all, from your phone number, if we have your phone number, we already know who you are. And so it's going to speed up the response time and the misery from that the resident is experiencing because they're dealing with an emergency. And it's going to really kind of understand their need. And if it is a true emergency, it's going to route that to the correct people in a way that's much more seamless. I mean, it shaves like, a lot of time off of this whole experience. So it'll route it to the right person who is on call and staffing that property for that need. And if it's not an emergency, it'll help them walk through, how to get it fixed the next day.
Interesting. Okay. So like typically if I've got a problem, I'm calling property management. And so you got to get in touch with them first. If they don't answer the phone or it's after hours, then you're kind of stuck until you get in touch with the person. Well, after you get in touch with the person, they now have to go filter. Okay, what is your request? Is it a leak? Do I need to call the plumber? Is the AC out? I need to call the HVAC. This tech that you're using allows them to just bypass all that and route them straight to the contractor that's on call for that.
Exactly. It's using machine
Oh,
learning
that's cool.
better and better over time. So the more calls it takes in, which it's handled like, I don't even know, tens of thousands of calls already, right? So, and that should be in the millions soon once we keep growing the company. But so it's just going to get better and better. The machine learning will really help to anticipate what people need. And as they say, electrical or plumbing or whatever, it's gonna have this knowledge graph of all the different possibilities of what can go wrong. And it's going to really capture that in a clean way, route it to the right person. And that's all going to happen, far faster than a human in the loop. Right.
Yeah.
That's the experience I
Interesting.
want. As I want just like low friction. I want just get me off the phone as fast as possible in every
Yeah.
regard. That's why I love
Yeah.
Amazon. It's like, I don't need to talk to anyone. If I have a return, boom, I'm just pressing a couple buttons. And that's what I mean by laggard in the real estate space. We got to get to that spot where, if I want a hotel room, I can just click on a button in Kayak or whatever experience I want to go to, and I'll get that hotel room that night. Like, why can't
Yeah.
leasing an apartment be that easy? I should be able to lease on a plane. By the time I'm, landed, I'm already, if I move to a new market, boom, I already have a home.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. What tech are y'all? Yeah, let's just go through all the pain points because I've rented before. I had a house that took me 2 hours to fill out the application. I'll never forget. It was the most painful process. And
Mhm.
I went to the house, couldn't figure out how to get the code to get into the house to look at it. I mean, they set the barrier for me to do business with them so freaking high. And I mean, that was just a first experience that I had. I remember this. What tool, what like AI tools or tech are you guys using to streamline and make that part of the process easy for your potential tenants?
Yeah, well, we have another thing we built called Rent Call. So it's kind of similar to Job Call, but really focused on the leasing experience, which is, to your point, I think very painful. So if I'm a prospect and I'm calling in for, you know, trying to find out information about an apartment home and availability, yeah, I can go to the website, but that's kind of annoying. You know, sometimes I want an experience where I can have like a, you know, back and forth with a human, or, you know, maybe I don't know if it's even a human. That's how good the AI is already that we're building. So you don't even know if your answers are being given back to you by a human. But that's just so much more simple. You know, if all right, do you have 2 bedrooms available? Yes, we have this and that, whatever. Do you have you know, what's your pet policy? Let me get that really quick. Come back to me. All these different things where it's just, you know, if I'm calling 4 or 5 different apartment communities, I want all that to happen at the speed of as quick as I can talk. That's how quick I want the info, you know?
So how are you able to give that to me? Is it so like I showed up one time looking at a rental and I'll never forget, like I found it online and was like, oh, this I can drive there. I just upload my license and then I boom, get a pass. That's freaking cool. I mean, they made it so easy to get in there. How are people able to get that information so fast? Like there is it a person they're talking to? Is it y'all systems and processes and checklists that you've ironed out of like what needs to happen when they're on the phone? Like what's the secret sauce here?
Yeah, that's all AI. That's all been driven by, we feed into the system a bunch of
Uh-huh.
questions around all the prompts, right? So you can probably nail like 95% of the prompts just by anticipating what people want to know. And even to the point of like, oh, what's around? What's in the neighborhood? Well,
So,
there's a
so they
restaurant here.
call in and say, "Hey, this is your AI. Ask me a question on the phone." And they go, how many two bedroom, two baths do you have available?" And it actually goes into the system, pulls it out, and says it. Or, "Hey, what's your dog policy?" They're talking to an AI instead of
Yeah,
human to immediately get answers to these questions. Is that what I'm hearing?
that's what you're hearing. Exactly.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
it's in pilot, kind of like pilot mode right now, but I've heard examples and I've used it myself, and it's getting better and better by the day. It's really fascinating. It's very cool, to the point where you're not going to know if you're talking to a human or not.
Yeah, we do some of our meetings. Like my mom and dad were actually looking at moving to Nashville and moving into this specific apartment complex that one of my buddies' dads live into. And I was there, and we are hanging out, and we are catching up, and having lunch. I had a maintenance request. I actually got locked out of the
Mhm.
patio area on that, like on the sixth floor. I was locked, like the door didn't work, and I called and it was an AI, but I didn't even know that it was an AI until like the end of the
Exactly.
phone call. I was like, "Hey, what problem are you having?" I said, "Hey, I'm actually locked out on the sixth floor. Can you come grab me real quick?" And they said, "Sure. You're locked out right now. Is that right?" And I said, "Yes." Sixth floor. Yes. Okay. Someone will be right with you. And I realized at the end of the call it was AI. I was like, "Whoa, holy cow! This is absolutely bonkers. That sounds so realistic." So they're getting a whole lot better. So, what are some of these other really interesting technical advantages that you guys are using to differentiate from your competition?
Yeah, another one to call out. Less of an operating business or you know, an operating technology, but we have a business that's called OwnProp, right? And
Own prop.
ownprop.com. Yeah, you can go on and check it out. But it's basically a blockchain. You know, it uses blockchain technology to fractionalize real estate and the ownership of real estate. So real
Mm,
estate, as we know, is already really almost always like a fractionalized asset class already. Any kind of investment or syndication, you have an LLC that's likely owned by a number of people, and they just own a pro rata share of that the ownership of the property. So let's say if $10 million of equity, and I'm $1 million of that, I own 10%, right? So it's already fractionalized. But what OwnProp does is it uses blockchain technology to record that, you know, your ownership, and then eventually long term it's going to be able to help you trade in and out of your position, which really does not happen in real estate right now, right?
no, no,
That's
it's a liquid.
totally, that's a game changer. So again, visionary play, it shows you how long term thinking, long term oriented we are. Because, let's imagine a world though, where you have a really wonderful platform that's robust, that gives you all the info that you possibly can want about a real estate deal. So coming into the deal, that's pretty easy, right? Like I can read a pro forma, I understand the return profiles, I can vet the sponsor, I can go to their website, I can even talk to the people, and call them up. But if I have a position 4 years down the line that I want to sell, it's not like the stock market, right? It's not like someone's shouting a number over the fence to you and saying, "Hey, I'll buy the stock today for 1,000," and I previously I bought it for 700. So we wanted to create this liquidity on the platform where people feel confident that there's a number that it'll transact at, and then using blockchain technology, it's very easy to swap. So it's almost like the stock exchange for real estate that we're trying to
Yeah,
build.
it's creating liquidity. I was talking with somebody about this the other night on like a note platform. So he's talking about how, let's say I do a promissory note. I'm a hard money lender on a single family property and I'm charging them 15%, whatever.
Mhm.
And so boom, I'm lending him 250 grand. I'm getting 15%. He was talking about how he's able to chop that up and sell that loan to 10 different people for 25,000 a piece, right? 25,000 times 10 is 250. Yep. Okay. I think my math's right there. That's really interesting to me because then you can arbitrage the difference. And for somebody who's seeking some lower returns for less risk,
Mhm.
well, you're making 15% and then you're selling it to other people for 10% and you're arbitraging 5% there. And you don't have to go find one person. You can do it among 10 people, 15 people who are like, hey, I'll do this for 10% because the risk is a lot less. I'm diversified. So it sounds like it's very similar to that.
That could be a use case. Yeah, there's many of them, right? It's the mission of that business is really to democratize real estate investing. And so we need some help from the SEC, right? Like right now, a lot of our offerings are Reg D 506C, which means that you only can have an accredited investor come into the deal.
Right.
And a lot of people that have investable cash just don't meet that requirement. But they're savvy, they're financially savvy, right? Then they should be able to invest in real estate deals, private offerings. Like they can go on Robinhood tonight and go buy some Amazon, right? I mean, now there's public reporting, and maybe it feels the SEC feels like, well, that's safer because there's more, oversight and governance. But people are locked out of real estate as an asset class
Yeah,
for the
they
most
are.
part, right? Like we should be able to go on just like I can go on Robinhood tonight. I should be able to go on OwnProp or some other platform and invest $1,000 in a hotel I just stayed at because or your deal. I meet you and I'm like, yeah, this guy's onto it, man. He's building great single family homes and he's crushing it. But I only have $1,000 right now, but I believe in Brandon.
Yeah.
Boom. Let people go. Let people do what they want with their cash. That's how
You
I
made,
feel.
you explained it in layman's terms, which is how my brain thinks. If a third grader can understand it, I probably can understand it. And so you lit up. Why can't you go on an app? Why can you go on an app right now and go buy some Amazon or some Netflix
Right.
stock, but not buy a piece of the hotel that you just did, or someone's development deal that you're at? I love this idea. Where do you see tech going? Because you guys seem to be at the forefront. Y'all are inventing new technology to cater to the needs of the real estate business. And y'all are the client. Y'all are the one. That's how you know what the pain points are. Where is this going? Where are some of the really neat technological arrivals that are on the horizon that we have not seen yet?
Yeah, good question. First of all, I'm glad I'm able to explain things to a third grader because I have one of those. So, um, and a first grader and a kindergartner and a pre-K. But anyway, um, yeah, man, it's a very good question. Real estate, I think has got a long way to go because again, I think of technology, it's deflationary, right? It drives costs down over time. And so think about single family homes, right? Like the concept of building a 3D, getting 3D printing done should drive down the costs of single family homes dramatically because the
Mhm.
cost of building it is going to
Yep.
go way down.
Yep. Yep.
So similarly, from I don't understand that world like you do, clearly, but in the multifamily space, I understand deeply. Um, it's going to happen. So staffing is going to completely change in our business. And like I said, the 300 unit property that used to be 3 and 3, so 6 people just locally on that site should be 1 and 1. So 2 people can run that site instead of 6.
Mhm.
And doesn't mean, the work still needs to get done. It's going to be outsourced and routed and automated using AI. I would say like AI is the main driver of that.
Yeah, like what we talked about on the phone, being
Right.
able to get straight to, not have to talk to a human. Okay.
So to me, that's the future, is that you change the whole cost structure of managing rentals
Uh-huh.
and managing people's needs as they're going through their lease terms. And people underestimate that. If I'm spending, $3,000 per month, that's a $36,000 commitment. That's the cost of like a car. That's one of the biggest things that people pay for in their lives.
Mhm.
And the wallet share of that's huge. And so we need to make that experience far, far superior. So I think those are the things that are going to happen. Number one, it's the Amazon level of experience. Like, I don't need a human in the loop to get what I need done. It's exactly what you described. Like, hey, I'm locked out. I'm on the 6th floor. Yeah, you should know all this. Like, boom, just send me the guy with the key. Like,
Yeah.
or preferably get me my smart lock info, and I'll get right in without you. And so all
So
these, I think a lot of different things need to happen at the same time, like hardware and software together, and then we'll get a much better experience and lower
what do you
cost.
what do you think are the biggest challenges that technology has yet to solve with this property management space?
Oh man, it's probably some of the stuff I've highlighted already. It's
Okay.
it's number one, being an operator in our business. It's really difficult because you're under fire all the time. Like no one comes in the office to really thank you. Like they're coming in the office because they have a problem, right? So your day is like going from one fire to the next. And then if you're representing the property and stewarding it for an owner, you spend a lot of time pulling together reporting. So that's another area where we have another business there. It's called Prop Data, and AI should be able to do all this for us, right? Because everyone has an accounting program that they use. It should be very clean, and any professional operator, it is very clean. And you're already having monthly reports, but to suss out the information of how the property is really doing, telling the story, going to the right metrics, a lot of time is spent between an owner and their agent to really like figure all that out. and,
Mhm.
and AI has a big role to play there. I think better use of data, better benchmarking. These are things that are going to again help to improve the asset, and that's going to ultimately drive down costs because an owner needs to have a return on their money.
Mhm.
So if your NOI is increasing or your expense ratio is getting better, boom, the owner's going to get
Every
a better return.
penny
Yeah, it's going to go ahead.
every penny matters in
Yeah,
multifamily real estate. When you understand how the properties are being valued and how the NOI works and cap rates and multiple, literally every penny matters. And so this is really interesting. So you're seeing things scale down as far as human involvement, which that's the biggest cost of running multifamily is hiring people, right? It's also the biggest headache is hiring the right people. And if you can remove that, man, the I can see the future you're talking about where it becomes a lot easier to own and manage real estate. And the investors have a better experience because they know that things are buttoned up. They know that the vacancy is not going to go down because
right.
the property management company is disperforming. They know that they're not gonna have any problems getting that thing leased up and getting it cash flow stable, so there's no capital calls. I'm
Yeah.
loving all this, and it speaks to volumes about where you guys at ATX Acquisitions are as a company because y'all are at the leading edge of all this, and so that says a lot about you guys. For those that want to learn more about you, Dan, learn more about ATX Acquisitions, learn about your opportunities, potentially invest with you guys, where should they go?
I would say atxacquisitions.com is really, it's going to have all of our team background, track record, and ways to get a hold of us, but also LinkedIn. I'm pretty active these days, and it's been a wonderful platform. I wasn't active prior to like a year ago, but now I pretty much post every day. So hopefully trying to add value to folks, and yeah, please find me there, connect with me. My phone number, I always give that out, is 845-629-1808. And a couple pods I've been on, people have actually texted me and reached out. One of them asked me for a job for their daughter, and I think we're gonna accommodate.
That's awesome. You never know who you're going to meet. I'm actually looking at the website here. So atxacquisitions.com. Go check those guys out. This is really neat what they're doing. I love all the tech stuff. If you've gotten value from this episode, do us a favor, leave a review and share it with your friends and family. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Thanks for coming on.
It's been fun. Thanks so much, Brandon.